Okay, good morning. It's Tuesday, May 10th to be exact. This is our work session, and Beth, you're on our agenda. Yeah. So we'll turn it over to you guys.
All right, fair enough. So I want to start by introducing Brett Margroff. Brett is going to be my partner in leadership at the Seneca Conservation District. So our board has decided it will be a team leadership situation out in our department. And I will be the team leader. I'll be working with the programs and the staff. And Brett will be the business leader, and he will be working with the finances and the business futuring part of our district to we keep growing out there, we keep getting more and more impact, and to keep that divided and moving ahead forward. That's the approach that was taken. We both are going to continue trying to do our other jobs. Brett is a nutrient technician and has been working with cover crops and the farm sector there, and I've been doing the communication and outreach and grant writing, and I'm going to continue trying to do that as well. All of that being said, we're still very new in all of that, and we know that there's going to be changes ahead as we continue to want to grow and innovate more. So we've actually added some more staff. We have 5 new people joining us. Most of those are grant positions and are also funded with some of the federal dollars that are coming into the area because of the harmful algae blooms. Also, with your guys' additional help this year, we were able to get more state money and add that other full-time technician too. So we're excited to be situated out there. We're excited to be leading. Be leading the charge with the team behind us. So we just wanted to come say officially hello and thank you. And then, you want to say anything before I get into the economic impact of
You're the good talker.
what's going to happen?
I guess that,
Yes, please throw it at us.
Question, is this kind of the new direction from the Seneca County Conservation District to replace TIA?
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
so it's now going to be a co-shared
Correct.
responsibility.
You're right, exactly, Fred.
Okay.
So we took our time. Tia passed away in October, and we took our time deciding how and best to continue to serve and continue to do our work. And we really realized that it's hard to replace 12 years of leadership and 12 years of institutional experience with somebody brand new off the street. And that is it's possible.
Yeah.
We did consider it. We did also realize that there would be benefits to bringing somebody new in to look at the perspectives and to add that. But in taking our time evaluating all of that with the board, they also realized that the reason that Tia was such a good leader is because she had such a good team behind her, and that we needed to just kind of build within. And if we had the willingness to do it, the board was behind us in doing that. And so that's why we went with the shared approach, because neither one of us wanted to give up what we love doing, the outreach and the impact and the farming and the nutrient management. But we believe in the future of the organization too, so we did sacrifice our other jobs to make sure that the leadership, got us where we needed to be in the future. So yeah, it'll be a shared partnership. We're not exactly sure what that means. It means I do a lot of talking and he does a lot of background prodding and poking and figuring. And
We complement each other well. How's that?
we do indeed. There's no there's no power struggles, there's no communication barriers, there's not something where you should be like, oh, maybe I should call Brett instead of Beth on this, or maybe I should call Beth instead of Brett on this. Call either one of us. We talk all the time. We will, one of us will get what needs to be done. That's all there is.
The B team.
The B team.
The B team.
The B team.
I couldn't find an A team, so
Be
Yeah.
squared.
So don't hesitate, either one of us will be available at your beck and call to do whatever. And the same thing with the producers. The producers don't see anything different in our office. They're walking in and they're just, whoever's at the counter is helping them. And that's what we want to happen. We didn't want it to be a big disruption of services or a big disruption of the economic impact that we're putting out too. So, yeah, it'll be both of us.
Good. Well, congratulations to both of you.
Whew, thanks.
And good luck.
Thanks.
Couple of questions, housekeeping.
Yes.
Extension numbers, phone extensions.
119 is mine.
119 and Brett,
125?
Yeah, 125.
okay.
There's a little bit of a phone error happening out there, but we're getting there, so. With
Did I
the new
hear-
team members.
Did
Go
I hear
ahead.
you say you hired 5 new folks?
We
And
did.
they are all grants writers?
No, but I'm training them, Mike. I'm training them.
Okay.
I am training them. A majority of them are coming from grant funds.
Okay.
Yeah, they are.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
They are the derivative of the.
Correct.
The
They're a product
additional
of our
grants.
grants that we've received. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And I assume a lot of this is because of the money that's coming in from Fed and state because of the toxic bloom.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah, so one of the people we're actually going to be sharing with other counties. We, however, are the central hub of the leadership. The other counties around us, Ottawa, Wood, and Sandusky, see our board and our administration as the most effective to continue leading and growing. We have kind of established ourselves as a hub in the area of conservation. And so we house the person, we oversee the person, we administer her performances, but she goes to work in those other counties as well. It's kind of been a key place for us to continue to stay. We were already doing that with Crawford County, Wyandotte County, Sandusky County, with our manure management person. We house him in our office, we oversee him, we administer his work, but the other counties contribute to parts of his salary. And so then they get to benefit from his expertise as well. And it's kept Seneca County at the hub, of holding that expertise too.
The additional funds that are coming in from the feds and the state because of the toxic bloom, is that distributed throughout all of Ohio or just those that have the watershed that leads into Lake Erie?
It's what they refer to as the Western Lake Erie Basin, the WLEB. You'll hear that coin used a lot. And so those are the 22, 23 counties. that are in
Okay,
Northwest
so
Ohio. They're all
funds are really
drained
being funneled into the area that is most contributory towards.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're in the southern part of the state, people are a little upset right now in conservation because all of the money is coming to this area of Ohio. State money, federal money, all of the resources are truly coming to the Western Lake Erie Basin area. It was a number of years ago, that all of the money was going to Grand Lake St. Mary's region. And we all sat here looking at how much money was going to Grand Lake St. Mary's saying, oh, look at all that money over there. Well, again, right now, we're being scrutinized and looked at as we're getting all the money because we're in this western area. But that's where the problem is, that's how the state has prioritized, that's how the federal people have prioritized trying to fix these problems, is by targeting additional monies there. So there still is some conservation happening on the southern part of Ohio and around, but those funds are truly targeted to those 16 to 22 counties, depending on which area of government gets to decide what they consider the basin on it. Luckily, Seneca County is 100% in the basin, and so we are, again, primed to be the hub of what's happening and keeping an eye on that.
As we all know that, the farmers and the pesticides aren't all the issues. A lot of issues I understand, and I hear like the city of Detroit and their sewer system is overpowered. Are they throwing money in there too? Or are
Well,
they
the
trying to
wastewater treatment
emphasis?
and the public drinking water people have already kind of cleaned up their act. They got a lot of money and had a lot of inputs from the help of the state and the federal governments, like in the late 90s to early 2000s. We were putting millions of dollars in that infrastructure and in those cleaning systems then. Which is why right now, honestly, the farmers are getting the brunt of it, because we haven't made strides in agriculture to clean up things. However, we also know that coming to the real solution to the problem is everybody all working together again, and everybody admitting and working, which is the second part of my story today. Is our farmers here in Seneca County are willing to work. Our farmers in Seneca County want to do more and want to do better. We feel like we're being scrutinized, don't get me wrong, but we're also willing to step up to the plate, and we're willing to do that because of economic help, but also just because of willingness to help the problem, truly. So let's look at those economic numbers, or I'm going to sit here and talk all day. I can toot my own horn well, you guys know that. So the top section is just a little bit more about Brett and I. You can keep that for the mouse around the office and scare them away that way. But the accomplishments in Seneca County is where I want to focus. So I want to talk about the federal conservation programs. and then the dollars that are coming in here to Seneca County. We have two programs, the EQIP and the CSP program. You love our government acronyms, right? Well, EQIP and CSP are the two major federal programs. And they bring in a lot of dollars. I highlighted two of those dollar amounts. 1.48 million has been promised just in 2016. Again, we're sitting at May right now of 2016, and that much has been promised into Seneca County. And the 3.78 million that's highlighted, that's been promised into Seneca County from last year and 2014 CSP. Those are payments that are going directly into the county. So backing up from that highlight, I want to talk about an applicant, the ranking process, and then what a contract really is. Okay? So in these federal conservation programs, someone who wants to participate comes in and becomes an applicant. They sign an application in our office to apply to this federal program. Once those applications are closed, or once the deadline is closed, then we go to a ranking process. The ranking process is just what it says. It's a competitive program that puts all of those applicants in order. Now, then when the line is drawn, where the funding goes and where the funding doesn't go, that actually comes out of the state or the federal decision makers. Seneca County does not have any decision makers in that. We get to help put them in line. We get to help make sure that they're all organized correctly, that they're ranked honestly and accurately. But when the funding line is drawn, that happens in Columbus or Washington, D.C. It's not locally our board's decision nor any of our staff's decisions. So that ranking process happens, the line is drawn, everybody above the line gets funded, everybody below the line does not get funded. That's where the competition happens. Once you're above the line and you get funded, then you begin to enter your contract period. Your contract is there, the money is allocated, it's promised to you in return, as a landowner, it's promised to you in return for your agreements to complete the conservation practices, to complete whatever you've agreed to do as this enhancement, as this incentive payment. So that's why we can then lump all of those contracts together and tell you how many dollars are promised, because in return for that many dollars promised for contracts, we're going to get this many conservation practices on the ground too. The farmers are going to do this much of something to get those payments. And we talk about natural resources, our air, our water, our rocks, our soil, those things that the earth gives us, trees, plants, and animals. We talk about the impact of all of those natural resources, and how we talk about that impact is with the specific conservation practices. So a specific conservation practice then would help us with those natural resources. We could talk about a filter strip. We could talk about a filter strip along a creek that would catch water that is moving towards the creek before it enters the creek. It would filter out some of the soil. It would filter out the nutrients. It keeps the water in the creek cleaner, as well as filters the water that's moving across the field. Those are kind of a filter strip, a windbreak where it blocks the wind along a tree from the soil, doesn't move, the wind doesn't pick up and move things. Those are some old conservation practices. We still do them. They're still very effective. But we have some newer ones too that are happening in the county. Water control structures are one of them. The farmer puts a water control structure at the end of his tile, and that water control structure allows him to control the water coming out of his tile. It's helpful during the different seasons when we have lots of water moving through those tile. And it's also helpful for him to be able to continue draining his tile when he needs it drained so he can get on and plant and not plant. What it's doing is conserving nutrients, first of all. It's also conserving water, and it's also conserving that stream health that is adding up to Lake Erie health. We're trying really to focus on water quality right now because of all of the issues. So water control structures are one. The other one is nutrient management. If we manage our nutrients, the nitrogen, the fertilizer, and the potassium that the farmers use to grow their crops, if we manage those on the soil in their fields better, we don't have to worry about them in Lake Erie or in our Sandusky River or the other creeks around Seneca County. So we have a couple of different practices that we're doing out on the fields with nutrient management, and they, again, would get an incentive payment if they agreed to do that. If they agreed to do it one step higher than they had been doing it, nutrient you think about going to the gym. I agree to go to the gym once a week. But if I agree to go to the gym 3 times a week, wow, I'm going to see a lot bigger impact. So it might cost me more because I'm going to have a longer membership there and more time there, but the impact is going to be bigger. Same thing with nutrient management. We try and work with our farmers to do a little bit, come to the gym at least once, do a little bit of nutrient management, but man, if you come 3 times a week, if you nutrient manage your nutrients really precisely, and think about what happens when you go 5 or 6 days a week. And we have that level out there for our guys to reach as well for nutrient management. So we're working with new things that way, and all of those practices then add up to this bottom dollar that comes back in. The EQIP we talked about, we're waiting for an announcement tomorrow because there'll be additional contracts issued tomorrow. We'll find out who those are and what, how many that's looking at. Remember I said that we know that Seneca County guys want to help? We have 130 people right now sitting in the office as an applicant. 130 different Seneca County landowners have came in and signed that they want to do something more. So that 130 is now beginning to get into that ranking process. That ranking process where eventually the line will get drawn, and we know that not all 130 will get in, but they're willing, they're able, they want to do something. There's about $8 or $10 million that'll be going into this ranking process that we're currently sitting in, and that's only for Western Lake Erie Basin farmers. Then that CSP program that is at the bottom, that's the second federal flag program that we have, and that is a little bit different. They don't get an incentive for doing additional practices. It's actually a conservation stewardship program where they get paid for how good they have been doing in the past. And then they get paid as an incentive to do a little bit more again. And those amounts are smaller, but you can still see they're substantial. And we still have over 44, or right at 44 individuals in this county that are participating in that because they're such good stewards. They've been doing great things that now they can do a little bit more and get incentivized for what they've been doing as well as more that they do. So those are the 2 federal programs. I just wanted to drop those numbers on you because, to kind of reference the other counties around us, it ain't happening. Nobody else has this kind of dollars coming into their offices. Nobody else has this kind of dollars coming into their counties. We hear all the time that counties around us won't even take a person's application if they want to apply for these programs. And the reason is because it's work. Honest, it's work. It's a lot of work to make that an application, to get them through the ranking process, and heaven forbid if you actually get a contract. If you talk to a farmer who has a contract, they'll tell you it's not easy, it's not fun, it's a lot of paperwork involved. Our office, the Conservation District, has been that partner to help them through it. We've been helping them with the paperwork. That's what one of the new people on our team is, to just help them more. Because we realize these dollars are important as well as the conservation practices are important. And in order to keep them coming into this county, we have to continue to help our guys. We call them our guys, our Seneca County landowners. There's women too, don't get me wrong. We have to help them with their contracts. We have to help them through this federal cycle. And our board, knows that that's pretty important stuff. So it's not happening around us. Again, we're pretty unique in that situation. But not to bore you more, but that's what that's all about. If you want to talk numbers and other things someday, we can definitely do that. 2 other pieces I want to leave with you. We do other things. We have a wildlife education specialist who's getting ready for our teacher workshop this summer, which will be hosted at New Regal. This is 3 counties coming together and having some great help for our teachers. Any teacher can come to it, but there's quite a lot of hands-on activities and resources that happen there. And to have it at New Regal is always fun because they get to see parts of Seneca County. We do field trips and things like that around. The last thing I want to do is share with you the pipeline map that we're going to be Brett created this for the newspaper, and Vicki Johnson is working on a story on pipeline impact around Seneca County, and we wanted to be able to see it and share it with you so that you knew what was happening as well.
We just had extensive conversation with regional planning about
Wonderful,
this, so
wonderful.
You guys, she needs to talk to you guys because we were talking about her having a thing on her wall down there
Perfect.
with our exec meeting last week. So-
Great. We will get in touch. Charlene and I
Yes.
have been talking.
Okay.
We were going to be talking
Perfect.
with SIDEC about the economic impact that comes on this.
On
Because
this part too.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we are working together. We just knew that we needed a map. That's what we had been looking for as far as impact area. Our guys in our office kind of knew about the different projects. It's hard to create a map too. I have to tell you, Brett was very nervous because now we're saying this is where it's going. And the one to the north, that route has definitely not been finalized. Even the one farther north has not been finalized. So either of those could slide either direction, north or south. But the Rover pipeline, it has been finalized. That path is coming right through a very big chunk. The other one through the middle is Sunoco, and as you know, we're still cleaning up that, and definitely have a lot of work to do in soil health in that area of impact around that Sunoco line that came in. And so these two up at the top are definitely proposed lines as well. So we, again, yeah, we'll definitely be working with more people on that, but we just wanted you to see that too, so.
And the wind farms, which will be another one.
It will be. That's a little different impact as far
Different, yeah.
as natural resources,
Yeah.
because it's not quite as disruptive to soil health and production. It is in those construction areas, but it's not as long-term. These pipelines are seriously long-term impacts to our guys' production, and that's a huge impact to the bottom line too, so. Thank you. Any other questions or things we should answer, or?
I guess the only thing I will add, one thing that had a lot to do with the number of applicants that Beth talked about had to do with the emphasis that our district put on outreach with Tia and Beth a couple years ago. And that impact there has allowed us to make contact in a very rapid fashion so that we can bring people in and get the signups done in a quick way, instead of, dealing with the old methods with snail mail or whatever, and then finding out that they've missed deadlines or whatever. So that outreach program has really made a big impact, I think, in the reason that why we have numbers.
Yeah, seeing the results of that.
We love having followers. We love, making sure that our followers have the information that they need. And that, just like with Albert last week, we don't give them the information about farm programs. We get our young people energized with information that they need to be conservative and care about Seneca County's natural resources. And our farmers, we know, don't care about selfies, for heaven's sakes. They care about the bottom dollar and what it means for conservation on their farm. And again, that's probably one of the reasons we have become the hub, is because we do know when we're talking to people, we meet them with what they need. We don't try and just sweep everybody together at once. So it has let us grow our impact a lot. Thank you guys for supporting that. That's what this matters, and that's why we want you to understand all of the different processes that you can. And it's a challenge some days, as you know, to work within each of these systems and to work within the state system of funding and the federal system of funding. But we keep trying. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming up and sharing this with us, and and that connectivity with regional planning and academic development. You're on it, and that's all great.
Yeah.
Good. All these wonderful resources working. Wow.
It is nice when they all come together.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a few more minutes before we can begin our regular session at our scheduled time and advertised time of 10 o'clock. So is there anything else for work session from anyone, or we'll take a brief recess and of a few minutes before we can start at 10, so we can stop the tape, I guess? Recess?
Yeah, recess.
All right.
That's fine.